Welcome to Daily Papers, the podcast where we break down fascinating new research papers. Today we're talking about something I think a lot of us have noticed. You ask an AI, like ChatGPT, to write something for you, and it comes back, well, it's grammatically perfect, it makes a certain amount of sense, but it's just so bland.
Exactly. It's what this paper calls correct nonsense. The AI produces text that is technically correct, but has no depth, no personality, and no real insight. It feels like a very well-written press release for a company you've never heard of.
The paper we're looking at today is called Workflow is All You Need, Escaping the Statistical Smoothing Trap, and it tackles this problem head-on. The author argues that most large language models, or LLMs, are stuck in something he calls the statistical smoothing trap.
That sounds technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine you asked 1,000 people to write an essay on a topic. If you averaged all of their sentences together, you'd get something that is very safe, very average, and very, very boring. That's the smoothing trap. AIs are trained to find the most probable, average path, and that smooths away all the interesting quirks and sharp insights that make human writing great.
So this paper proposes a solution, and it's not just build a bigger AI. Instead, it's about creating a smarter process or a workflow for the AI to follow. They call it the Deep News Framework, and it's designed to make an AI think and write like a seasoned financial journalist.
And the first step in that workflow is all about information. A human journalist wouldn't just start writing from memory. They'd read reports, conduct interviews, and gather tons of data. The Deep News system does the same, but on an extreme scale. It follows a strict 10-to-1 ratio.
A 10-to-1 ratio? What does that mean?
It means that for every 3,000 characters of text it wants to write, it first has to read and process at least 30,000 characters of source material. It's called information foraging. The system floods itself with messy, complex, high-entropy information. That's just a fancy way of saying a lot of raw, unfiltered data.
And they found this makes a huge difference?
A massive difference. They discovered what they call a knowledge cliff. If the AI had less than this 10-to-1 ratio of information, it would start making things up, what we call hallucinating. But once it crossed that threshold, the rate of factual errors plummeted. The paper calls this extra information the cognitive tax. It's the price you have to pay for truth.
Okay, so the AI has gathered a mountain of information. It can't just dump all of that onto the page. What's next in the workflow?
This is the planning stage, which mimics an editor's role. Instead of just letting the AI write freely, the system gives it a blueprint. These are called schemas. Think of them as narrative templates for different types of financial stories. For example, there might be a bubble burst model schema, or a company A pressures company B schema.
So it's less like giving the AI a blank page and more like giving it a very detailed coloring book. It has a structure to follow and just needs to fill in the details with all that information it gathered.
Precisely. It turns the incredibly difficult task of open-ended creation into the much simpler task of slot filling. This ensures the final article has a strong, logical skeleton, just like a story written by an expert who knows how these narratives tend to unfold.
So we have a factual basis from all the data and a logical structure from the schemas, but that still sounds like it could be a bit robotic. How do they escape that smoothing trap and make it sound human?
This is my favorite part. They use something called adversarial prompting. Basically, they deliberately try to disrupt the AI's tendency to be perfectly smooth and boring. They inject a little bit of creative chaos.
What kind of chaos are we talking about?
For one, they use a rhythm break. They force the model to alternate between writing extremely long, complex sentences and then very short, punchy ones. This breaks up the monotonous rhythm that AIs often fall into and mimics a more natural human breathing pattern in writing.
That's clever. What else?
They also use something called logic fog, where they tell the AI to avoid using obvious connecting words like therefore or however. This forces the reader to connect the dots themselves, making the text feel less like a lecture and more like an engaging argument. And they even mix professional jargon with colloquial slang to give the text a unique voice.
It sounds like they're trying to make the AI perfectly imperfect.
That's the goal, to create the texture of real human writing. And the results are what make this paper so compelling. They ran a David versus Goliath style experiment.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
They had two teams. The Goliath team used a state-of-the-art model, what the paper calls GPT-5, and gave it very detailed instructions to write like an expert journalist. The David team used their deep news workflow, but with an older, weaker AI model. They then submitted the articles from both teams to a real-world, top-tier technology and finance media outlet for publication without telling the editors that AI was involved.
And what happened?
The Goliath team, with the super powerful AI, submitted 10 articles. 0 were accepted. The editor's feedback said the articles lacked depth, they were superficial, and had overly smooth logic.
Wow. And the David team?
The David team, with the weaker AI but the smart workflow, submitted 12 articles and 3 were accepted for publication. That's a 25% acceptance rate in a highly competitive environment. The editors praised these articles for being data-rich, having tight logic, and offering unique insights.
So the weaker model with the better process completely outperformed the stronger model with a simple prompt. That's incredible.
It really is. The paper's conclusion is that for high-quality, specialized content, the workflow is more important than the raw power of the model. Having a meticulously designed cognitive process, one that mimics human expertise, is the key.
It's a shift in thinking, really. Instead of just waiting for the next bigger AI to solve all our problems, this paper shows that we can get amazing results from the tools we already have if we just use them more thoughtfully. It's not about the size of the brain, it's about how you use it.
And it suggests that the future of AI isn't just a bigger black box, but a collaboration where we encode human intuition and expert processes into the machine. The workflow, as the title says, might just be all you need.